let's get the show started. We gotta talk about some breaking news because I was literally about to start the show and I just came across something especially for people that have been in the Canon line, especially the Canon cinema line. For years, people like me and so many people have loved the Canon C200 and we love it to death, but one of the biggest gripes that everybody has said is that it's pretty much a polarizing camera because you either have the 8-bit codec, which is still probably some of the best 8-bit codecs I've seen, but still, when you compare that to the 12-bit, even the 10-bit RAW, it's like night and day. And so long of us have been praying for a 10-bit codec in the C200. Well, today is finally our day. That is for a new camera. So this is coming from Canon Rumors, and this is labeled a CR3. So this is pretty much saying you can take this to the bank. And essentially what he's reporting is that start coming sometime in April next year, right around NAB time, Canon is going to announce the C200 Mark II. And Canon, basically here it goes. Canon will be updating the Canon Cinema EOS C200 in or around April ahead of NAB 2021. That is if, NAB 2021 continues to exist. I'm praying because I love NAB. I've only been there one time. I went there in 2019 when I first discovered like those Aperture B7Cs, and it was such a great time. I got to meet Armando. I met so many great, wonderful people. Brandon Washington, like just the interaction with us as people who love broadcasting, just love content creations. It was such an amazing experience. So hopefully it does happen because I would love to go back. But anyways, back to Canon. Yes, so they're coming out with a new C200. It's the C200 Mark II. This new camera will share the same things with the Cinema EOS C300 Mark III. Doesn't really necessarily go into details except for these stuff at the bottom, which I'm really interested to see. I wonder if there's going to be something like, is it going to be the same DGO sensor? Maybe. But this new camera is going to have the same. Oh, so it is. I'm sorry. Like I said, I just saw the highlights and I scribbed through everything real quickly. So I'm a little bit excited. So it's going to have the same sensor as the C300 Mark III. So the same DGO sensor is going to be in the C200 Mark II. It's going to have RAW recording options, 10-bit 422, but it's not going to do 4K 120. It's going to do 4K 60, and it's going to do 2K up to 120p, but it's going to be more of a unibodily design than the modular design of the C300 Mark III. So I wonder what that means. Is it going to be sort of kind of like the C70? So I'm very curious of what that means. Like more of a unibody design. I'm guessing it's something like this. I'm guessing that sounds like it's the same as the C70. Could be wrong. But so we are going to have a Canon camera that is going to have 10-bit 422, the same sensor as the C300 Mark III, basically the same sensor as the C70 as well, with obviously no 4K 60, but that's okay. As long as the 4K 60 is similar, where you go up to RAW, where you can use RAW, and also you can use the DGO basically throughout that. It's not cut off at like 4K 30. You can use it for 4K 60, and then 2K 120 frames per second. Woo! This is pretty exciting. I know some people are going to be thinking, wow, so, I guess that we understand why there's no RAW on the C70. This also makes me very, very excited about the rumored C50 because it's supposed to have the same sensor as the C200, but maybe now that may have 10-bit because now with this camera coming out, because I was like, it doesn't make sense for them to release something like a C50, put 10-bit on it, but even though it doesn't have RAW, it has something that the C200 doesn't have. But if they're going to come out, if they're going to announce a C200 Mark II, basically just a replacement of the C200, And basically, we get instead we get the DGO sensor. We still get 4K 60. We get RAW. So this to me is super, super, super excited. Dang, Canon makes things so difficult now. Because I was like, man, I'm ready to like possibly looking at the C70. I still may get it, but now if this rumor is true that the C200 Mark II is going to come with all these features, I don't know. Wonder what the price is going to be on that one. I don't know. My guess is probably going to be it's probably going to be the same price as the original C200, which was $7,500. So you have the C70 at $5,500, the C200 Mark II at $7,500, and then the C300 Mark III at $10,000, which would make sense. So that's my guess. If I had to guess, it would probably be the same price as the C200. So let's go to the chat real quick. It's really feeling like even though some people are pushing 6K, 8K, 4K is really the workhorse for at least 5 years. Yeah, I mean, look, eventually some people are going to future-proof themselves, like myself. Look, once I got one camera that can future-proof myself, I'm good. Because yeah, 4K. I mean, look, 4K is still a steady workhorse, and it's going to be here for 4K is going to be here for a while. Remember, it took even though 4K has been around for quite a while, it took a while before it really became standardized across the board. It took a long time. So it's going to take 8K. Because again, I know people who are still just getting like 4K HDR TVs. So it's going to take a while for them to get to 8K. But I know a bunch of people that are getting ready for that. Like I know a couple of my friends who are in the broadcast environment, and their companies are getting ready for 8K. They're making sure that they can be 8K ready. So it's coming down the line, but it's going to be a while. Look, 4K is still going to be like something that people are going to aim for, but it's always just good to sort of also look ahead. Price, yeah, like I said, in terms of price, I think it's going to possibly be around the same price as the C200 when it first came out, which is $7,500. That's my guess. I still think the C70 is the sweet spot. If you don't need RAW, the C70 is a no-brainer. Absolutely, absolutely, totally agree. Like, honestly, like I said, I may still consider the C70 simply because I kind of want to have something like that with, like, something small like that with a high dynamic range, something with that high of a dynamic range, that good of an image. From people that I've heard and people I've heard from and respected that actually have the camera, they're saying the image quality is beautiful. So yeah, I think the C70 is going to be here for a while. I just find it interesting that this dropped, this rumor drops right around the time people start getting their C70s. Just find it interesting.